Anyway, so let's continue. Parang may mag-aaway pa eh. Okay. So we stop here. Instruments used in periodontal surgery. So let's proceed with the blade handle. I'm sure you're very well familiar with this one. You've seen this slide several times, right? So for this one, we have the Bard Parker number 3, right? Bard Parker number 3. So in the identification part of the exam, I want to see the entire thing. Bard Parker number 3. Okay? Because this blade can accommodate blade number 9, 10, 10A, 11, 12, 12B, 15, 15C, and 17. Okay? Unlike your other blade holder, like your Bard Parker number 7, can only accommodate 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 26. Okay? Most of the time in dentistry, we're using blade number 11, 12, 15, and 15C. Talking about the scalpel blade, okay? Scalpel blades are disposable, but they are very sharp. However, they also become dull. They get dull easily. Madali siyang pumurol. Okay? So sometimes in a certain procedure, you would need to use more than one surgical blade. Okay? Because it gets dull, becomes blunt once it contacts bone and once it contacts the tooth surface. Right? As I was always telling you, the code of these different scalpel blades would correspond to the shape of the blade. So 11 would look like a number 11, 15 would look like a number 5, 12 would look like a number 2, 15C would look like a small number 5. Okay. So for blade number 15, it's the most common blade used. Universal blade can be used for incision of all areas, anterior, posterior, around the teeth, and through the mucoperiosteum. When we say mucoperiosteum, if this is the tooth, this is your bone, we have this is the gingiva, yellow. Yeah, this is the gingiva. Okay, you have your mucosa here, mucosa, and this one here, yung blue, is the periosteum. So your incisions should reach up to the bone for you to be able to include the entire mucoperiosteum in your flap. Okay. Blade number 12 is sickle-shaped. It's used in the posterior area, palatal, lingual, and maxillary tuberosity area. Blade number 11 is sword type, sharp, pointed tip, primarily used in making stab incision. So incision and drainage. Okay. What is the indication of incision and drainage? If the patient has cellulitis, can you perform incision and drainage? Are all cellulitis patients indicated to receive incision and drainage? Not, no. So who are candidate for incision and drainage? What type of swelling should be present on the patient?
If there's a pus inside.
There's a pus. So what do you call that swelling? There's very good. There's localization. What else? Starts with letter F. So remember that term. Fluctuancy, very good. Fluctuant or fluctuancy. Right? The opposite of fluctuant is indurated. Indurated. Right? Indurated is the opposite of fluctuant. You cannot perform incision and drainage in an indurated area because you'll only be able to drain blood. No pus would come out on that area. Okay? Next, we have blade number. Another term pala, diba? Localization, fluctuancy, what else? Pointing. Pointing is also a term, okay? Next is blade number 15C. So it's a narrower version of your blade number 15, usually used in the interdental portion of the flap. Right? So when you load your blade to the blade holder, you need to use this instrument. What do you call this instrument?
Curved hemostat.
Very good. Curved hemostat, or also known as the
mosquito hemostat.
Very good. Mosquito hemostat. What is a bigger version of your mosquito hemostat? Kelly hemostat is a bigger version of your mosquito hemostat. You can use the Kelly hemostat to grasp root fragments, okay, and debris on inside the mouth. Okay. Next, we have the gingivectomy knives. So, as the name suggests, it is used for gingivectomy procedure. Unlike your surgical blades, this one, the blade is already attached to the handle. Meaning to say, you need to sharpen this instrument from time to time. Okay? We have two types of gingivectomy knife. You have your Kirkland gingivectomy knife, and you have your Orban gingivectomy knife. Your Kirkland is kidney-shaped, okay, while your Orban is spear-shaped. K is to K. Kirkland is to kidney. Kirkland is to kidney. And to say the other one, spear Orban. Okay. Next, we have the instruments used for elevating the mucoperiosteum. Basically, these are your mucoperiosteal elevator. Keep in mind there are several types of MPE or several types of mucoperiosteal elevator. And the one that we most of the time use in dentistry is the MALT9. There are several types of MPE. MALT9 is one of them. Okay? We call it mucoperiosteal elevator because you use it to elevate both the mucosa as well as the periosteum. Okay? So for this one, if this is the gingiva, this is the mucosa, this is the periosteum, and this is the bone, when you reflect your flap, it's something like this. Okay? Like that. So this one is known as your full thickness flap. When you say partial thickness flap, you are leaving the periosteum. If your flap looks like this, that is a partial thickness flap. You're leaving the periosteum. And what's the disadvantage of performing a partial thickness flap or raising a partial thickness flap? Since you left the periosteum here, the tendency is you would need to remove that for you to be able to see the bone, to have access to the bone. And once you remove the periosteum, you'll be damaging the blood vessels on the periosteum. And once you damage the blood vessels, what would happen? There would be bleeding on the area. If there's bleeding on the area, you would be affecting the visibility. Visibility is affected. Okay? And also, the surgical area would become more slippery. Madulas siya because of the presence of blood. Okay? This one, your MALT9, has two ends. You have your sharp and pointed end, and you have the broad and flat end. The sharp and pointed end is used with a prying motion to elevate the interdental papilla, baliktad, here. And the broad and flat end is used in a push stroke to elevate the mucoperiosteum from the underlying bone. You can also use this instrument to reflect your flap once it is elevated. If you want to stabilize the flap, you can use the MALT9 while you are sectioning, let's say, the third molar. You just have to be careful. Baka mamaya your MALT9 is Eufridi. Eufridium brand, and you're using the burr to section the tooth, and you keep on damaging your MPE. You're just damaging the instrument. It's a very expensive instrument. Next are curettes and ultrasonic scaler. So we have just discussed the curettes and ultrasonic scaler earlier. Let me just skip this one. Okay. Let's go to the burr, surgical burr. For the surgical burr, you can either use low-speed burr or high-speed burr. Okay. It is important that you use surgical burr instead of resto burr. You cannot use resto burr. The difference is that your surgical burr would have lesser flutes. Mas konti yung blade niya. The cutting edge is lesser compared to your resto burr. So it's more effective in cutting. Okay? Because if there are more cutting edge, there are more blades, you're creating a smooth surface as compared to this one. It cuts faster. Okay? We also have a term known as ostectomy and osteotomy. Okay? What's the difference between ostectomy and osteotomy? When you say ostectomy, ectomy is removal. Diba? So that's bone removal. Parang odontectomy, gingivectomy, removal. Okay? Osteotomy, that is recontouring, bone recontouring, osteotomy. Okay? In terms of the surgical procedure, when choosing the burr, most of the time we use surgical round burr and surgical fissure burr. So surgical round burr is used for bone reduction. Fissure burr is used for tooth sectioning. Okay? It comes in different sizes. You can use it for high speed, you can use it for low speed, contra angle, you can use it for low speed straight handpiece. Okay? Next we have here the bone files. Okay? For the bone file, you have two types. You have, yes, Sir Padul?
Sorry to interrupt. What burr do you use usually for your tooth sectioning po? 7-wood, which one do you use usually in practice?
It would depend on which one the assistant would give me. I can work with both. Most of the time 704, okay? But it doesn't really matter to me as long as it's fissure. Okay? You also have to consider kasi the thickness of the elevator that you would be using to wedge the tooth. Right? You have to consider that. Baka you're using a thinner fissure burr, it won't fit. You check also your elevator, especially if you only have one elevator. Diba? And most of the clinicians would extract using only one elevator. Doc, that's my only elevator. Diba? I cannot remove the tooth, doc. Can you help me? And when we try to ask her, do you have this other elevator? No, doc, that's my only elevator. Remove the tooth using that elevator. Diba? So you need to have several types of elevator because it would also make your procedure easier and more efficient. Okay? Some students would ask money. Okay, some students would ask money to their parents. Kasi po, I'm going to buy the Amaridge. Pero what did they buy? Feldon, di ba? Feldon, US Dontics. So, where did the money go? Samgyup, doc. Di ba? Samgyup ako, doc. Starbucks. Tazas. Di ba? Okay? You need to invest sa good instrument. Okay? Daming guilty, di ba? So, next is this one. Bone file. For the bone file, we have two types. Parallel blade and we have crisscross blade. Okay? For the parallel blade, you use it in a push or pull. Pull motion. Okay? What about crisscross blade?
Push and
push and pull motion. What will happen if you apply a push motion in a parallel blade bone file?
Burnishing only.
mag-burn.
You'll just be burnishing the bone. Burnishing the bone. Alright? Next we have the needle. For the needle, the most commonly used sizes are 1/2 round and your 3/8 round needle. Okay? In terms of the types of the needle, we have the non-cutting, we have the cutting, and we have the reverse cutting. You already know this, right? When you say non-cutting, it's circular. Say cutting, it's triangular. Reverse cutting, inverted triangle. Non-cutting would only rely on the tip. Diba? So if the tip becomes bent, you would now find it hard to penetrate through the gingiva. When you use them on the cutting needle, triangulars, since the blade is here in the inner part of the circle, once you penetrate the gingiva and you didn't follow the curvature of the needle, tendency is that you would be tearing the gingiva. Mapupunit siya. And if you use the inverted or reverse cutting like this one, inverted triangle, if you didn't follow the curvature of the needle, less tendency for the gingiva to tear because the blade or the cutting edge is here in the outer part of the circle. My question now is, when is the cutting needle indicated? When is it best used?
Sa palatal, Doc, maybe.
Very good, palatal area. Because the palatal mucosa is thicker. So it's better if you use the cutting needle there. Okay? Next we have the suture material. In terms of the suture material, we classify it according to the size, whether they are absorbable or non-absorbable, and whether they are polyfilament or monofilament. In terms of the size, as the number goes higher, the diameter of the suture becomes thinner, as numinipis. So in dentistry, we most of the time make use of 3O and 4O. When you read books, you would sometimes encounter this code here. So this one means 3O. If you have like that, that means that's 4O. Okay? Which among the two would create a bigger nut, a bulkier nut? Is it the 3O or 4O?
3O.
The 3O would create a bigger nut or a bulkier nut, meaning to say it's more plaque retentive compared to your 4O. Okay? And patient would get irritated if you use the 3O. Okay?
So Doc, should we use 4O usually for our sutures? Is it better?
It's better if you can find one. If you can find one, you can use that. Because it's difficult to find a 4O suture, which is silk. Most of the 4O suture comes in swage needle. Are you familiar with swage needle? Swage. This one is swaged. This one is swaged. This one is swaged. The needle is already attached to the suture material. Okay? Kasi the ones that you use, you buy the separate silk, you buy the needle, then, diba? You nililik ninyo yung silk, then you insert this sa hole, diba? That's what you do. And it's a bit difficult to find a 4O silk. So we have here classification in terms of absorbable and non-absorbable. Non-absorbable suture materials, some are silk, stainless steel, nylon, vinyl. These are just some of the examples. When you say absorbable sutures, you have your when you have absorbable suture, examples are your plain gut or your cat gut. You have your chromic gut. You have your polychromic glycolic acid, you have your polyglactin. Okay? Let's first discuss the absorbable suture. When you say absorbable sutures, you don't need to ask the patient to come back for suture removal. Diba? No need for suture removal. But should you still recall your patient? Is there a need to recall your patient if you use an absorbable suture? Or no need? No, because the patient paid me already, so I don't want to see the patient anymore. Is there a need for you to recall your patient even if you use absorbable suture?
Yes po.
Why?
Still need to check, diba? How is the area?
Okay, very good. It's not just the suture that we are concerned of, right? You still need to check the healing. If there's sharp bone, you still need to check the adjacent tooth. If there's caries on the proximal area, you need to check if it's mobile, okay, and others. So you still need to recall your patient somehow, okay? But most of the dentists will not recall the patient. Sige po, just message me if there's any problem. Okay, just take pictures, diba? But it's better if you still ask your patient to come back. For non-absorbable, you need to ask the patient to come back at least how many days after extraction?
One week.
4 days?
5.
At least 4 days.
5.
At least 4 days, okay. Up to? Up to 11 days. Okay? 4 to 11 days. But still, it's subject for checking, diba? For evaluation. Evaluate the area. If it's already stable, if okay na yung wound in 4 days time, then you can remove the suture. If not yet, you need to delay the suture removal. Okay? But it's not strict na 7 days. So some clinicians would message me, "Doc, kasi my patient is scheduled to have her sutures removed today, but classes were suspended, and the patient would come back Monday pa. Is it okay if I remove the suture ng Monday?" Why are you asking me? I'm not your CI anyway. So, yes, you can still remove it on basta within 7 to 11 days. If you were not able to remove it in 11 days time, then instruct your patient to maintain proper oral hygiene. Diba? Keep the area clean to prevent suture tract infection. The patient will not die naman agad, diba? So, just ask the patient, okay, just clean it properly. Okay, and delay the removal. So, let's discuss the chromic gut and plain gut. Your plain gut and chromic gut, or catgut, are made from sheep or bovine intestine. Sheep or bovine intestine. Okay? The difference between your plain gut from chromic gut is that chromic gut has chromium salts added in them. Okay? Chromium salts would act as a preservative, which in turn delays the absorption. It delays the absorption of the suture material. Okay? Because if you don't incorporate chromium salts on your catgut or the intestine of the sheep, it would get absorbed by our body in around 5 days time. In 24 hours time, it would show deterioration already, and 5 days time, it's completely obliterated. It has completely absorbed by our body. So, what would be the effect then? Premature removal of suture would mean wound can become open again. There can be dehiscence, bone exposure. Okay, So we don't want that to happen. By incorporating chromium salts in the area, you are now delaying the absorption, and the material can last up to 14 days inside the mouth. Okay, 2 weeks time. The manner on how the plain catgut and chromic gut gets absorbed by our body is through enzymatic breakdown. Okay, enzymatic breakdown. Some would answer enzymatic, some would answer breakdown. Answer both. Enzymatic breakdown. Okay, enzymatic breakdown. Next are the polyglycolic acid and polyglactin. Okay, polyglycolic acid, polyglactin. Polyglycolic acid and polyglactin are both generic names. They're both generic names. One common brand of your polyglycolic acid is your Dexol. One common brand of your polyglactin is your Vicryl. Okay, so common brand of these suture materials. Polyglycolic and polyglactin lasts inside our mouth for around 4 weeks, 1 month. Okay, I've used polyglactin material that would last for around 70 days inside the mouth. There are also some materials that would last for around 100 days inside the mouth. It's too long. And most of the time, patient would come back to the clinic. Doc, can you just remove the suture? Okay, I'm getting irritated na. There's a suture. It's been 3 months and the sutures are still there. Okay, so if that's the case, you can remove the suture. Okay, so before you buy, you can check how many days pa before it gets absorbed by the body. Okay, so unlike your chromic gut and plain gut that undergo enzymatic breakdown, polyglycolic and polyglactin does not undergo enzymatic breakdown. Instead, they undergo slow hydrolysis. Okay, they undergo slow hydrolysis, and eventually they are resorbed by the macrophages. Okay. Next, we have here the polyfilament and monofilament. When you say multifilament or polyfilament, it has several strands, just like your silk suture material. Okay. The advantage of your multifilament or polyfilament is that it is easier to handle and tie. Okay. Next, it rarely becomes untied. Okay. Third, the cut ends are soft. Okay. And less irritating to the tongue. Okay. And the disadvantage of this multifilament is that it has a wicking action. Meaning to say, it's able to absorb the saliva. Together with the saliva, bacteria can also get absorbed and go and pass through the suture and go inside the wound, causing infection on the area. That's what we call suture tract infection. Okay? Unlike your monofilament, wherein your polyglycolic and polyglactin, these are monofilament. Okay? The advantage is that it has no wicking action.